Well, oops.
Don't touch the lectern.
Don't touch the lectern, yes. So, I think that reading was probably longer than the sermon's going to be, actually, but yeah. And I will be honest, I did struggle with writing this sermon. I was looking through the readings, and I thought, okay, I can say something about those. Then I thought about it being Mother's Day. No problem, I could do that. While putting the service together, I was thinking about Transgender Visibility Day. Okay, a bit more difficult. But then I remembered the theme, give and take. Okay, not so easy. Who chose the theme? Well, according to Andrew, as his assistant, everything is my fault. And actually, in this case, it kind of is. I didn't make the final decision on the theme, but I did suggest that we considered using it. So, anyway, has anybody heard of the naked pastor? Now, don't worry.
It's not me.
It's not one of the latest ideas for street church. Thank goodness. And I'm not sure whether that would attract people or turn the ones we've got away. But yes. But no, the naked pastor is a Canadian artist and minister who uses cartoons to illustrate the discrimination against LGBTQ people. And one picture depicts Jesus returning with the lost sheep, only for him to be told by the 99 others that in fact they'd kicked him out. So, now unfortunately, that is not an uncommon story among trans people. Too many churches would rather exclude someone for being authentic than accept them for who they are. And even those who do welcome trans people often, instead of throwing them a party, will give them all the rules they have to follow, including being discreet, in order to be allowed to stay. Now, as a child of God, a member of Jesus' flock, each person, no matter their gender identity, I believe, has a right to be accepted as their authentic self, has a right to be celebrated as a full member of God's family, with all that means. This morning, at a different church, we were invited to think about how our church acted as a family. And unfortunately, as I've said, not all churches do act in that way. Many of them have big bands, expensive sound systems, comfortable furniture, expensive coffee, although coffee's good. Coffee's important. But they don't recognise each member as an individual person. They don't see them as unique and distinct people, each with their own needs, talents, desires, etc. People ask me sometimes what street church is, what we do, and I tell them about the music, about the drinks, the snacks, prayer and communion, but I also tell them about the conversations. And I think that as important as all the other things are, talking is perhaps more important. Some of the people we see don't always get to chat. Sometimes about completely inane things. In fact, if it's Andrew they're talking to, it's probably nonsense. But they get fed, sometimes they get housed or clothed, but they don't always get seen for who they are as individuals. And having an honest, open conversation about unimportant things can mean the difference between feeling human and feeling lost, just like that sheep. Now, many of my friends who are trans have had the same experience with their families, their churches, their jobs, of having their authentic self ignored. Dead names will be used, old pronouns insisted upon, insulting terms dropped into conversation, all of which demeans and trivializes that person's lived experience, shuts them out just as effectively as a closed door would. And yet, when asked what their chosen name is, what their preferred pronouns are, it makes such a difference. It can make them feel human again, valued and celebrated. The golden rule, as found in many spiritual practices, is expressed in Christianity as do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or love your neighbour as yourself. And I think that a good way of living that rule is to give yourself to people, rather than taking their right to live authentically. To give your time, not just expensive, elaborate and impersonal church services, and to take a moment to treat that person as an equal, a fellow human being. Today, as with other Mother's Days, birthdays and Christmases in the past few years, it's been a little difficult for me. Since my mum died in 2014, days like today can serve as a reminder of what I don't have anymore. But thinking about everything I've just said reminds me of what I do have, which is memories. My mother was many things, some good, some bad, as we all are. But she was full of love, and I had 34 years of experiencing that, both in what she did for me and in what she did for others. And one particular example that comes to mind is when I brought someone home that I had been supporting, someone who had been rejected by her parents for her sexuality, someone who had been living rough, often rejected by passers-by simply because of her hygiene, her clothes, the things she did to get through each day. My mother opened her house and her arms, giving my friend somewhere to sleep, somewhere to feel human again, to start rebuilding her life. She became a mother to someone who had been lost without any hesitation or regret. What loving your neighbour means is individual to all of us, but I believe it starts with giving of yourself. Amen.